is Naveen. So big round of applause for Naveen.
Thank you all for coming over here on the weekend. My name is Naveen Muguda. That QR code will take to the slide deck if anybody wants to view it parallelly. I'll start with my belief system. Theory without practice is empty, practice without theory is blind. This is something, this may be my observation / bias I have acquired over my career. You can follow me at LinkedIn or on Medium. Couple of disclaimers. Speaking on my personal capacity, my views don't necessarily represent of my employer. Some pictures from Google searches and some of the tables I'm using were generated using Gemini and ChatGPT. Folks, software engineering is this delicate dance between people and machines. And I believe a lot of software architecture is about the human element of software engineering. And that's where a lot of my focus tends to be. And I keep drawing parallels with the real world to express concepts from software engineering. And today's reference will be operations syndrome. So this slide talks about the various technologies that India employed in operations syndrome. It goes from unmanned systems, AI, advanced communication, hypersonic technologies, and so on. And this slide is about the various missiles India possesses. They differ on the range, the speed at which they can travel, the payload they can carry, whether it's ballistic or cruise, which arm of the armed forces use it, whether they are surface to air, air to air, surface to surface, or such categorizations. These are what is available in public. And there is another slide where I speak about various systems. And I want to focus on some of them are completely indigenous. Some of them are bought from other companies, from other countries. And interestingly, we managed to even have indigenous upgrades to foreign systems. There's a very interesting piece about this. With the advent of drones, guns are considered to be outdated technology. I'm not talking about just the handguns, but things
Not only
like
guns,
the
even war flights now are outdated, they say.
yeah, howitzers and those kind of bigger guns. So our army managed to retrofit these 1990 technologies with AI, and I'm told they were quite effective in Operation Sindoor. I'll come to this. So India's investment in the missiles started way back in 1950s and have progressively we are gone in terms of the breadth and depth of technologies. This has happened from 1970s. So we have a range of technologies. We have a high degree of automation. We have a lot of breadth and depth in the various dimensions of these missiles. We use a combination of homegrown, partially homegrown, fully homegrown technologies. And we've taken a lot of long-term iterative approaches technology transfer and capability. I want to show this other video.
India's farmers, India's workers. You will not need the army, navy and air force to be standing over there.
So, folks, the audio isn't great, but here the great gentleman talks about why do we need an army. So, here's this vast investment, varying indigenous production, transfer of technologies, investment over multiple decades, and all of this hi-fi systems. And there's a prospective prime minister who's talking about why we need an army. I'll come to this in a while. So, we use overloaded words in our day-to-day communication. I'll pick a couple of them: simple and complex. The word simple means derived from the word one-fold, which can be paraphrased as few, one or few. While the word complex talks about multiple parts. Now, question to you. Would you consider our defense strategies as simple or complex?
Complex.
What's wrong in being simple? As Mr. Gandhi said, we don't need army.
Single point of failure.
We miss a lot of edge cases.
Not even edge cases.
Yeah.
Are missed. So I'll come back to this. Okay. I'll draw more parallels. Why don't we eat the same food every day?
Boredom.
But isn't the same food every day simpler?
Some people do that actually.
Why should there be multiple ingredients in food? Why salt, why sugar, why spice?
Right nutrition.
Our body is complex. Human body is complex in this.
But isn't having fewer ingredients simple?
It may not be sufficient.
Okay. Okay, now, why doesn't your employer pay everybody the same?
Because everyone don't work with
The incentive to improve will reduce.
Different quality.
Again, isn't it simpler for the employer to pay the same salary for everyone? Why should movies have background music?
We can't able to see the challenge.
What was that?
It's tough to be seated in the silent movie.
But again, and I'll come to the last step of this. Why don't we get paid for Hello World programs?
It's not useful. That's not useful. It doesn't add the value.
But it has already been paid.
Yeah, obviously. True.
Okay, now let me ask you a question. Name a successful system that isn't complex.
WhatsApp.
Oh, what's that?
WhatsApp is one of the most simple systems. A lot of people, I mean, we did a study of it, that why nobody couldn't succeed. Even though WhatsApp, when they initially started, they started with a very simple philosophy of just chat, right? And everybody else also did. But why only WhatsApp succeeded and why nobody else couldn't?
Do you know how many servers does WhatsApp run?
I don't know. At this point, I don't know.
Yeah. Do you know what programming language was it written in?
Yeah, Erlang.
Erlang. Why didn't they use C or Python or assembly level programming language?
No, they could have written either Kotlin Android.
Okay.
In all
Again, don't they use end-to-end encryption?
They use it.
No, what I'm talking about is today's. I'm talking about, let's go back 10 years back.
Even then, I would say, if you talk about few versus many, where would you put a successful WhatsApp? I would argue it would be many. Okay.
I want to answer a point over here. How
UPI.
UPI. How many servers is UPI being run on?
Yeah, but the moment you say from the user's perspective, the moment that you make the payment, so every time we say something simple, very complex, the one perspective.
yes.
Background things can be there, running. But the main point is that the people make the payment, they have money, they use it.
Okay.
Same.
You are talking about a simplex system. I'll come to that. But yeah.
I think the answer to your question is not more of which system is complex and which system is simple. What is the use case? Every use case comes with a certain kind of complexity.
I'm not even coming there. Yes. I'm saying, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm saying there is nothing simple that is successful. Or I'm happy to prove me wrong, but whether there's any corporation, whether it's any religion, whether it is any technology or anything.
It's not Linux kernel.
One of the most complex.
Actually, we get your point, right? What you're trying to say is when we work, we have to work on complex things, make it simplified, then it will be more successful.
I'll come to that, but I'm saying the distinction between having a simplistic interface and having simplistic capability.
I mean, the example say like if you put, to put in other perspective, eating food, I'm having a simplified dal chawal which is mix of many things. Can I have separate dal, separate rice, separate salt? So having this separate thing will be more complex for me. So what we have done is we have simplified the process to create a food which is complex in nature. So if it goes in that way, it's
Pretty much that's the essence of my presentation. So, the first premise so far is complex system trumps simple systems. I would categorize systems on the first dimension is whether there are simple or complex. Basically, they have few elements versus many elements. And further, I distinguish the complex into two buckets, what I call the simplex systems and complicated systems. Yes.
So I have my own perspective when we are defining simple and complex. Until the system is not exists, that is complex. If it exists, then it becomes simple. For example, having a telephone system, at that time it was complex when it was not existing. But now that the landline telephone has been obsolete totally. And now it's been treated that okay, it was damn simple. So anything which is not exist nowadays, it's a kind of in vision or in research that is complex, which has been adopted, that becomes simple.
No, those are connotation. That is not the connotation I'm using in this presentation. It just talks about the number of elements involved in that particular system. That is what I'm used to categorize systems into simple and complex. So, If you look at this, uniform width, uniform elevation, no, then there's no other vehicles. This would be a simple system. Here there are lanes, there would be lights, there are lane indicators, there are this systems created to prevent one side going to the other side and so on. This is a simplex system. Somebody driving on this lane doesn't have to worry about people in these lanes. They are focused exactly on one lane as long as they're driving. And if they are trying to change lanes, they have to focus on that particular lane. They don't have to worry about other lanes and people coming in the other direction. This system provides a simplistic view to a lot of information. That system is what I'm calling a simplex system. And compared to this, everybody is driving from various directions.
This is Germany, this is US, this is
You cannot
Okay. I need a volunteer. What is 317 greater than 19? Okay. What did you have for breakfast January 2nd, 2019? Okay. How many green cars do you see on the way to here? Green cars, green colored cars. Oh, okay. One.
Not sure.
How about white cars? I need the number. So folks, come back to this. So going back to the traffic, things like this are done in the back to ensure a simplistic view of the road systems. Now comes the relevance to software. Rich Hickey, one of my favorite speakers, has given this definition. Complexity is a property of a system that makes it easy to hard to understand, modify, or maintain. I understand about this, but I'll provide a simplistic definition of complexity. It is basically the quantum of information. Things like rules, constraints, tribal knowledge, requirements, concurrency, all of this is information. And I'll refer to a talk of mine where I speak about this. This again is a quote that resonates strongly with me. We shape our systems and therefore thereafter our systems shape our work, culture and assets. Another quote. Yeah. This is another oft-used meme of mine. So if you observe, the takeaway is it is not about just getting the work done, but doing it well. Not about building a system, but building the simplex systems that matter. So this is another corollary of what I've been speaking so far. If you can eliminate complexity, do it. If simplicity suffices, great. If not, go for simplicity. This is the takeaway from this presentation. I'll come to this. Somebody spoke about abstraction. Yeah. Actually, I should have spoken about interfaces here. Interface driven gives you a simplistic view to implementation. That is a manifestation of the Simplexity mindset. I given a talk about this. This mindset I spoke about can be applied in various aspects of software quality. Usability of iPhone matters. That may not be as important for another system where security might be a bigger concern. So even figuring out what dimensions of software quality you can employ the simplicity mindset. You can figure out what to eliminate, what to keep, and what to organize. How many of you work with people? How many of you have to deal with politics? Rather, how many of you don't have to deal with politics? Man, we don't have to deal with. Okay, so keep on.
Referral group.
Again, the point is, you cannot overlook the politics side in our work. If you take a simplistic view saying that
As of now, I'm not dealing with pressure.
yeah. So again, each of this we need to employ the simplicity mindset. So some complexity can be reduced, some cannot be reduced and has to be managed. This is a dump I got after multiple prompts with one of the chat tools. Yeah. There's too much information for you to assimilate. This is for later viewing. Things like the concerns from the problem, the solution, the human element, the project management, the social technology, technical aspects, all of this influence software development. Folks, this is what Gemini spoke about, Gemini or ChatGPT spoke about. What are applications of the simplicity mindset to software engineering? All of this are considered to be applications of the same mindset. Folks, now coming back, I shared this link. This is from the Chief of Defense Services. He speaks about combating fake news. I'll come to this. Folks, I've given a talk on based upon Occam's razor. And this is from an earlier version of Wikipedia article. And it speaks about this being aware to ancient Hindus way back in 1238 and 37. Now, I encourage you to go and check out the current version of the article on Occam's razor. This reference has now been deleted. Can somebody guess why?
Provide away the inclination, political inclination of the website maintainer also.
Yeah, but is it this is most likely a fact. Yeah. Omitting this, doesn't it fall under the misinformation category?
What's the question? Does it fall under misinformation?
What is the intent of a person who would have removed this from the Wikipedia article?
Not supported by enough facts.
No, no. It's not very much relevant whether we see this or not see. It doesn't differ the meaning of that particular thing.
No, no. Ganesh Upadhyaya's formulation is in sync with the preaching of Occam's razor. This particular section is talking about how it was known to folks before Occam coined it. Okay. The rest of this remains in the current version of this article, but not this.
To hide the Indian context?
Yeah.
That does not match with the person's agenda. Who removes that, his agenda does not meet with whatever. He have a different agenda.
Yes. Yeah. I'll come to this. You should check out this video. This author speaks about the hatred for Indians on internet. Now the reason I'm saying all of this is we can have a simple view of the world. The world itself is complicated. Trusting everything on Wikipedia, trusting everything on the internet, trusting everything your employer says is a oversimplistic view of the world. Going back to chat agents, I asked, is the Simplexity mindset, was it known to ancient Hindus? And this is what I got from the chatbot. So, 21st of June 2025, what I am presenting here has been known for maybe tens of centuries. I'll come to this. So when ISRO did some of their key achievements, this cartoon was published with a negative connotation of India, and this was a response by Indian media house. So folks, who won Operation Sindoor? India. There is almost a unanimous opinion and clarity on that. Who won the narrative war?
Western India.
Pakistan.
Pakistan. Yes, Pakistan seems to have done better. There was immediate sanction by an IMF loan and there's an immediate sanction of a World Bank loan soon after. The quantum of the loan and the immediacy of the loan raises eyebrows.
That was already in process for a long time.
The $40 billion from the World Bank?
They didn't get 40 billion.
1 billion.
40.
No, they didn't get 40
For their own agenda.
The problem is if they give anything less than that, their legal systems become unsupported, right? That increases the risk for the entire region. We can always oversimplify by saying that, oh, this is biased and all of that. But the problem there is, if you don't have enough money to support their infrastructure, it falls into the hands of people who are even more unpaid. So to maintain that normalcy, they have to give some amount of money.
Okay, let me challenge you. What makes you say that your philosophy is not honest?
Sorry?
What makes you say that your statement is not oversimplistic? How many dimensions are you considering?
I'm not just considering from my perspective, which is right? Like I can easily say, oh, it's biased, so they got a loan. So I'd like to counter that by saying my opinion is a lot more balanced than yours in the sense that it also considers the problem that there's a different perspective.
Okay, let me say. Do you think the $40 billion will be used
It's
purely
not
for
40 billion, it's 1.2.
40.
40 billion is
40,
a
40.
amount of money. Who thinks that?
40 billion.
It's 40 billion. The two parties, IMF and World Bank. World Bank has assured them $40 billion.
Sure, the grant was only like $1 billion.
IMF's grant was $1 billion. World Bank's grant is $40 billion.
But that's not related to the operations in the right? That's always in process because the
No.
the time is
Immediately was the operations that was going on, immediately they have granted.
Okay, folks.
Escalated the process.
Folks, the point is, I am saying that we have been conditioned to think in a certain way, which might or might not be representative of the nuances behind it. So, I'll talk about this. Simplexity's evil siblings. How many of you have heard employers say we are a family? How many of these companies have done layoffs?
All of them.
So, it's the same thing. It's a simple interface, but it is a misleading interface. So, while we should aspire for building simplistic systems, we should also not fall for over-generalizations. Let me not talk about the PK, this is very well understood. I'll talk about this recent movie called Tourist Family. While I have not watched the movie, I heard it's a very well-made movie. It talks about a Sri Lankan family coming to India, getting fake Aadhaar cards and so on. So one analysis is, it is basically normalizing illegal immigration into India. So, going back to the world, I'm saying, having simplistic views of the world can be counterproductive, and there are people who are relying on these tendencies for their own gains, and let's not fall for this overgeneralizations. Okay, that is end of my talk.
We have time for questions. Share that slide. Yoga. That QR code. Yoga, your Sankhya or that.
Yes, the entire thing is online.
Is that QR code? We'll be sharing QR code.
Sure.
Can you tell a little bit about the Occam's razor, that your previous talk?
Occam's razor tells you that if you have two competing hypotheses which suffice for your problem, pick the simpler one. It doesn't say pick a wrong solution. It doesn't say don't pick a simplest solution. Pick something which is both correct and optimal.
For example,
Yes.
when we try to design any application from the scratch, we understand about the simplex complexity that we do. But what are some design principle you will advise for us? Some design principle to consider. Of course,
Look, whole of software design principles are basically either manifestations of Occam's razor or the simplicity mindset.
when we are starting out and let's say building a new product, a new concept, isn't it better to actually start simple and aim for getting the system as simple as possible so that both users are able to use it effectively and engineers are basically they can manage the software or whatever they are doing.
I'll ask you a simple program to write. Given an array of integers, find the fourth largest integer. How would you implement this?
I mean, there are many ways to do it.
It's not interview, so.
Probably have an algorithm for that.
No. What is the algorithm?
Probably use a priority queue as we said.
Okay, how about sorting?
Sorting and we can also have a brute force solution for it.
Okay. K, largest.
A heap.
Okay. Assume you didn't have a library and you would have built a heap. Would you keep the heap as within the same method or would you move it that to a separate method?
I would probably move that in a separate.
How long would a code? Let's even take, say, sorting. Sort is one line and find fourth is the next line. Sorting can be implemented like, say, 6 lines or 8 lines of code. Would you keep the sort method as a separate instance or within the find kth largest?
Want it to have a separate place of itself.
When a 8-line or a 10-line program warrants modularity, I assume anything you're building has more complexity than this.
Yes, but then it is a perspective, right?
It's a point of view. It's literally point of view where you are looking at the problem. The solution might appear as a complex or simplex. It's just a point of view.
Simplexity is not just for users. Simplexity can be built for developers of a system as well. And a 10-line program was considered big enough by you to break it into two so that somebody who doesn't care about sorting will just say sort and not the implementation of sort and focus on the rest of the code. So you give an example of a 10-line method. I will say that most real-life applications tend to have more complexity than that.
So essentially what
And hold on, I think somebody over here spoke about it. Build, refactor, build, refactor, build, refactor is one way of getting to the simplest view of systems.
So, can you explain pattern properly?
No, this is not simple. I'm saying, if you trust everything what is projected on paper, they are giving a very subliminal message to you.
No, first trying to understand what they try to understand.
Okay.
No, I didn't understand the pattern.
Yeah.
What is the convention? Outside, now it is inside and
They're two different cartoons. This was published in 2014. Published by a different way.
So what message is he trying to give to?
It's just asking what a cartoon is.
That they can publish.
The other countries are waiting for India to launch theirs and theirs as well. The 3-year difference. They're making fun of it. Back in 2014, India had this start in like
They put a cow, they showed a person with a rural background and say these people are living in a comfortable couch. I think the condition is clear. Who is better, who is not, is a connotation conveyed when India launched a successful ISRO campaign. I'm saying it's a subliminal message. They are putting us down in this cartoon.
That would depend on where you are looking at it from. Like, it can be complex for the same person,
No.
simple for the same person.
I'm talking about Simplexity's evil siblings. On surface they say something,
It's simplex
but it has a hidden meaning which is not necessarily positive. So by telling a good story, they might be evangelizing illegal immigration.
But then again, the interface that you are looking at, it's even I think
No, exactly. I'm making the premise is don't look at things from a simplistic lens always.
That was your just ending tagline.
There is one takeaway from the software engineering world. Eliminate complexity. Make systems simple or simplex. But given all this, I'm saying, moment you have understanding of this simple interface and complexity hidden behind. I'm talking about Simplexity's evil siblings, where people say we are a family, but they don't really mean it. So this is meant to be entertainment with a hidden message. This is meant to be artistic with a hidden message. Yeah.
So in terms of when we are adopting a technology or something, so how to recognize that some patterns of when we are adopting a technology or something, so how to recognize silver or it appears simplex, but it's implementation.
I mean, it comes down to their interfaces, their API specifications, their mechanisms, their entities, and so on. Yes.
What's the negative subliminal messaging in the first one?
Go to Google and talk about the criticisms of PK. Let me not go there.
Can we say simplex system is equal to complex system plus simple interface? Is it the
Yes.
We never spoke about the transition of complexity from one side to another. Let's just say for the user, if the interface is simple, the complexity lies in the back end of the system.
Yes.
Whereas more options we provide for a user in terms of the interface, the complexity obviously simplifies in the back end.
So this is what I spoke about. To have a simplistic load system, they have to do all of these things. So simplex systems are hard to build. That is a takeaway from this slide.
Because it takes a backward way to operate. You should go to complex system, then simplify it.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody mentioned, you can build, refactor, build, redesign.
That's the reason it is difficult to build, or from simple to simplex.
Okay. I believe the best approach is that continuous refactoring.
So for example, previously when we have to send a message, so there is something called fax. Just I'm taking from here. Now, that time you have to worry about electricity, paper and everything, you as a user. Today, if I have to send a message to you, what I have to do is just type the message and send it. Background, it will use the internet, it will encrypt and everything will happen. Every server will come into the picture. But I, as a user, I don't have to worry about those things.
Yes.
Right? So this is a way you can say that this is a simplex system.
Yes.
So
we are, as a race, as a species, not race, a species, we are continuously raising the level of abstraction. We have come to a state where we are using AI as the building block. A lot of content I presented today was AI generated.
So here we got some amount of time which has been received, I would say. So it's overall in humanity we are reducing the efforts to do the things, so we can put the efforts where we want.
Elsewhere.
Yes. I think one of the buddy here also did that whatever the technology we are seeing, evolution we are, eventually it is to save the humankind somewhere around. So this, like you said, simplex system. Somewhere this word I have seen first time I got the meaning of it. Why we are software engineers, what we have to do. This time I got the goal, okay. It's not what you are building, it's about are you building a simplex system or not. So,
and I'm saying, unless you're building simplex systems, you're doing something wrong.
Yes.
So your point you saying refactoring multiple times. Isn't it a repetitive work or something? It's better to design at the first.
Folks, these conversations can last for days. This is a meta talk.
Software design is design thoroughly so that you don't have to. Design thoroughly so you can build it for scale and you don't have to change again and again.
Going back to the test I put him through. Human minds are known to have short-term memory of 7 plus or minus 2. So everything should be expressed in terms of 7 constructs for human mind to reason properly. So that 10-line program became 2. So I would say don't wait for things to grow before you start refactoring. That would be my advice.
Design.
I want to understand from your perspective, like what is the point you are trying to make in this talk? Because I see there are 2 things you talk about. One is making or striving for developing simplex system. Other one, towards the end, you want to also convey that don't just pretend or assume that this is some simplex system, go into the complexities. Otherwise, you might be fooled that this is a simplex system. But then, isn't it a bit counterproductive to go into the complexities to know that it is a simplex system?
As a developer, as a builder, I want to do the right thing for my users. If I were designing a car, I will provide a simplistic interfaces. I do not want to put a surreptitious GPS tracker which is uploading the information and sending it somewhere else. There's a certain difference.
That depends on the application. Like
yes. The first takeaway is, if you rely on a simplistic view of the world, more often than not, you are wrong. Simplicity doesn't take you anywhere. So, as a seller or as somebody who is producing content, producing code for you to have consumers, make it simplistic. As a consumer, there might be situations where taking a simplistic view might be counterintuitive, productive. That's why I call them simplexities, evil siblings. They are similar, they're not the same. It's a nuance I want to bring out over here.
I think that is also, you have to dig deeper, get into the complexity of what the interface is actually. I mean, just looking at these 2 pictures is not a complete idea. It won't give a complete idea that whatever is trying to they are trying to convey is true or not.
Again, the whole summary is simplicity can be deceptive. Simplicity doesn't take you far. As a consumer, as a builder, go further and make simplex systems. As a consumer, you may have to dig deeper and understand things behind.
Just one last line before you wrap up. One question which I realized, right, when you say when you are trying to propose a solution to the leadership, like now the biggest problem that I say, the moment you show your solution is a very simple, on the very first attempt of my demo they will discard it. But the same solution, if I tweak it to make it one of the most complex system in the world, the chances are they may not understand, but they are okay to take test on it. Right? So, that's the problem. What does it mean?
It is, you can't simplify people beyond a point.
But how do you deal with it?
It's a case-to-case basis.
You can simplify a hello world program, even you can break it down even further. Like the class will load, the compiler will run, it will be made into a machine code. So why can't that be the case? We have to always think that it can be breaking down.
Again, as somebody said, it's about the point of reference. Would your employer pay you for writing hello world programs? Or would you be paying you for building information retrieval or e-commerce systems?
If you know the details of a hello world program, maybe they will pay you for doing that, right?
Exactly. You know what that means?
It has been broken down into even some simpler units.
Yes. Again, I'm saying, doing trivial things will not get you far.
Trivial and simple are not the same.
No. In this case, it is simple. The same thing. The very first I spoke about Simplex as simple as one fold. It's about one or few. Complex as many. That is a definition I started with this talk.
But the frame of reference matters in that.
Yes. Exercises. I'm talking about the limits of human brain. We cannot deal with a lot of information.
That's what happening with AI now. There are so many things coming every day.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, going back and summarizing the functions so far, simple systems tend to be neither good on the usability scale or the scalability scale upfront. While complex systems tend to be good on the usability but not on scalability. Simplex systems tend to perform well both on both of these dimensions. So I'm differentiating between simplicity and simplicity. A hammer or a chisel can be considered to be a simple tool compared to a chainsaw or a modern car. How many of you understand what's happening in the engine when you're driving?
Some of us. Okay. Yeah. So what you want to know? What is happening in my engine?
Yes.
I am aware of that, what is happening, how the combustion, how everything is going. But it's not me as a user need to worry about.
Yeah.
Because I know that, that doesn't mean I have to worry about.
Oh, okay. So at what level do you understand the engine working?
So I would say it's 4 or 5 years old back knowledge, you can say that. So I know how the combustion process is happening, what is mean I am accelerating, what is mean I am taking clutch, how a brake happens. But as a user, I don't have to worry. As a mechanic or as an engineer, I know how it works.
Okay, I will challenge you saying whether you understand the physics of the engine, whether you understand the chemistry of what's happening over there, molecular chemistry, you can go down. But the point is,
it's like I'm not aware of everything.
Yes.
Some of it.
And I still would say you would be among the minority of people in most sample sets who understand what is happening.
You can say.
WhatsApp, iPhone, a Tesla car, these provide simple interfaces to a lot of complexity underneath them.
So, that question you asked, the system, simplex system, or simple or versus complex. So, I see it's a point of view, whether the user is able to interact simply to that system or not.
Yes.
System, how complex it is. It doesn't matter whether the user is able to interact with the system and whether the user is able to use that system. That is the point I see. The last question you had asked, the simple, and there are a lot of WhatsApp. WhatsApp is simple It's not a simple system. It's a very complex.
No, WhatsApp is a simplex system.
Yes, yes. That's simple.
iPhone is a simplex system.
Yes.
Google search engine
Is a simplex system. So the premise of this whole talk is simplicity trumps simplicity. Simplicity trumps complicatedness. And the only real way you can make a living is to build or work on simplex systems. So, and
Basically, simplex system is complex and simple at the same time.
it is at two different levels.
Simple types for users.
They provide us a simplex system provides simplistic view interfaces, but there are a lot of complexity underneath.
So basically, a hello world program is a simplex system.
The simple
for printing a hello world on the console. Can we say that?
It depends from the plane of
from the
reference.
So that would mean that every complex system can also be considered simplex or simple at depending.
We are going into those are right, but again, that is the essence of this talk. An engineer who will write hello world and only hello world will not be employable compared to somebody who understands distributed systems. A phone which can make only phone call will not be able to succeed against an iPhone or a latest Pixel. Any company out there, they will be optimizing for speed, quality, or cost. So there's a lot of thought process, there's a lot of nuances that happen behind any successful system. I'm saying if something is simple, chances are its functionality is significantly small and will not have consumers. And if it's not and provides a complicated interface, again, it is not scalable. So a lot of capability combined with simple interfaces to it is what makes systems successful. That is the premise of this talk.
So I was getting confused between abstraction and this simplicity.
Okay. The word abstraction is derived from the word subtraction. It talks about removing away stuff from it. It is similar, I'll talk about it. But it is not the same.
Is that a word or have you made it up? I mean, is that your made up word? I mean, it's good if you have made it up. I'm just curious.
I'm not the first person, but the word simplicity again has different connotations. I picked one of them for this talk.
Recently I was learning Rust programming. So compared to, let's say, higher level other programs like Python or JavaScript, you see that for the JavaScript writing the code is simple compared to writing a code for Rust. But Rust will give you more control. It's a complex interface, you can say. But at the same time, it has a place for some areas. So how do you put that type of things?
Again, if you go back to the missile slide I had, our defense forces have missiles which travel for 15 kilometers. One which goes for 9,000 kilometers. So the takeaway is the number of things to consider, the number of things what we can do and what we can represent would be indicator of our success in this world. I missed a slide here. How many of of you are familiar with Huffman encoding. So, Huffman encoding tells you, say, if you're transmitting a bunch of text, we will not use a uniform length for each of the characters. Based upon that particular document, they analyze the frequency of each character and use a variable encoding. So, the cost of encoding the raw data, the cost of transmitting encoded data, and the cost of decoding the encoded data is typically less than the cost of transmitting the raw data. So, all of this additional effort is worthwhile. So, going back, the usability of a simplex system, as shown by the traffic examples, is better than that of a usability of a complicated system. The efficacy of a simplex system is greater than that of the efficacy of a complicated system. The learning time of a simplex system is actually more than that of a complicated system. So if you have to get a license or drive in this, the number of rules one needs to understand and internalize is significantly more than what we need to do here. So a learning time for simplex system tends to be greater than that of here. And the design effort to build a simplex system tends to be larger than that of a complicated system, equivalent to this. So I repeat myself, we need to build simplex systems, and building simplex systems is hard. And that difficulty might be the reason why we will be employed. Yes.
Yeah, but it is more difficult to design the simplex system because nowadays people want to like put everything on a system, like you give this feature, you give this feature also. So that this is difficult. Or like the UI UX person will be knowing how to design a simplex system. You are getting it now?
I'll come back to this. Yeah.
What is efficacy? What does efficacy mean?
Efficacy means what all the system can do. Or in this case, one parameter is the number of vehicles which can move fast, or the average speed of the vehicle.
So can we put it this way that simplexity is something that is just enough complicated? Enough complicated to solve the...
It is managed complexity. It does a lot and provides a simplistic interface to it.
How is the efficacy bigger? I mean, they both can do the same thing, but it's of course the end user is far more. It's easier for the end user to use a simplex system.
Yes, the average speed of a vehicle on this is going to be higher than this. Yes.
So I would like to debate on the third point when you said learning time, right? This is an example wherein probably we would say that learning time is more because they have to know the roots and all.
Yes.
Now let's say if there is a complex system, for example, let's say it has too many parts, right? Let's give an example. Now if it's a complex system, if it has too many parts, then I have to understand each and every parts working in order to get the standard.
No. That is where you have layers of abstractions, you have interfaces, you have implementations.
But that would make it simplex, right?
Yes.
So the learning time of simplex has to be less because then I don't have to understand what are the internal parts that are moving, which I need to get into place so that I can get the job done.
Okay, we're getting into very nuanced conversations. If everything is in one file. There is no prior knowledge you need to do to start modifying. It becomes brute force, you go and figure out where in the code. But if there are layers of abstractions which you have prior understood, then it becomes easy to navigate. So I was talking about things like usability. So if you go back to a parallel, the speed in which somebody drives on this road is less than over here. But here they have to understand and follow more rules. I'm referring to this as a learning time and this is the execution time.
But isn't the speed a function of the simplicity?
Of the simplistic interface provided by a simplex system.
Always we aspire a complex system to be a simplex system. That is our end.
No. A simplex system is a complex system.
Yeah, I know. Start with a complex system, but end goal is to make it a simplex system. Because you want to convert so that it will be more usable and more scalable. That way I see it, right? When you start a complex, you try to see like how I could find a solution to make it little more usable and more usable in the sense from user perspective, and that way you provide more simplistic interface. So you try to kind of break down a complex system, then try to make it simple. That is always we aspire. No, as an architect or something.
I kind of agree with that. It is the essence of iterative development as well. You do it in iterations, but each time you keep filtering out, make them testable and extract reusable codes. Yeah. Okay. Can somebody tell me what's wrong with this code?
First if is unnecessary.
You can just return
You can just return
unnecessary.
And I was seeing code like this.
It's very much unusable.
Why would you do that?
What is it?
And there were multiple consumers of this method. It is nothing but then accessing E. So here is an example of when I'm talking about you can eliminate complexity. Okay, now the next step. This is the imperial measurement system. So there's a conversion between inch and a foot and a foot and a yard to a mile. Observe that the multiples are different. Similarly for ounce to a cup to a pint or to something calorie. Now compare that with a metric system. Between an mg to cg to a gram to a kilogram and ton is multiples of 10. The same is for volume and similar. So there's a reason why most of the world has moved away from this to this, except for the Americans for they don't really understand. Which slide?
The first slide, the deck you are.
Folks, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Naveen. Always insightful and makes us think. So here, we can switch it out. It's nice. Right? So, another plug for your collection. Thank you. Alright guys, so we'll break for lunch now. Alright, so you can use any of these.